Welcome back to week 3. This week we're talking about the trout habitat. And the reason we're talking about the habitat is because we looked at the habitat to decide how a tank really should be set up. Now, what we have learned about trout so far is that temperature really matters. So part of the reason in the habitat is mountain streams. They've got the snow runoff, so it keeps it nice and cold because temperature is vital. If it goes over 70 degrees in the summer, you're going to have some die-off with your fish. So with our tank, we have a special piece of equipment. It's called a chiller, and that chiller basically keeps the temperature at a steady rate. We've got ours set at 54, but it runs about 53 degrees normally inside the tank because we want to keep the little babies, keep it as even as we can because that's better for their survival. Another thing that you have in trout streams is you're going to have little rapids. So it has riffles that adds air to the water, which is also very important. Fish need oxygen through their water. So what we have in the chiller, when the water comes back into the tank, it's a very powerful pump that pushes it in there. So it causes a little ripple effect on the top of the water. We also have a bubbler, and the bubbler has its own pump, and it basically pushes air into the water. You'll see a sheen of little bubbles coming up, and that adds the oxygen that the fish need into the water. The next thing we have is the eggs get laid. The female will find a little more quiet spot in the river where the water isn't so vigorous. You're not going to have rapids there. It's going to be a little quieter. So that's where we decided to put the net basket when we got our eggs, was to find the quietest part of the tank to hang the net basket so that the eggs, they get movement, but they don't get too much movement. You don't want to rough them up. We found that if there's some sharp jarring, the eggs can actually explode, and that was bad that we found out. And now that our eggs have actually hatched, what I'm seeing is that the alvin, instead of being in the middle of the egg basket, what they're starting to do is they'll go underneath the sides so that they're between the net and the pieces of the basket. So it kind of mimics the rocks that they would hide in if they were in a natural stream. So this week, what we have for you, for the youngers, I've got basically this trout stream paper. On the back, it shows you what the natural thing is that is valuable, and then you're going to pick which part of the equipment we have in our tank that would match that. For your more advanced, we have basically a tank setup, and we'd love for you to come in, look at the tank, see how it all interplays. We'd like that to be labeled, and then that's your information to have. Now for the littles, that you're not writing yet, but you would still like to participate in some way, we've printed out some coloring sheets. So we've got Trout's Life in the Wild, and it includes the adults, the eggs being laid, hatching into alvin, basically what it looks like in the stream as they grow. They for the fry, they try to find a place that's secure all the way to adulthood. So we would love you to come in and pick that up as well. Don't forget, watch our YouTube, because we've seen, if you watched, I can't remember what day it was now, sorry about that, but there was an actual egg you could see hatching on the YouTube. Right now we're running it for hours, so you might want to skim through. You can move the cursor, it'll show you some different things. I've watched some different things happening. The alvin aren't moving a lot, but now I notice as the egg sac is shrinking, some of them are coming out into the middle of the basket. And on Friday, we plan to update the camera lens, hopefully to get a little clearer picture. Thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you again for Trout Club. This week, we're going to learn about the tank and the setup. Last week, we've been talking about the life cycles of the trout, And there's a reason that the tank is set up the way it is. This is your basic tank setup, but it has to do with what the natural habitat for trout is. So we're talking about there's pools, there's ripples, there's quiet places. All of these things are mimicked in a tank. So let me give you a little heads up on what we have. Number one, for trout, temperature is incredibly important. You need to keep the water nice and cool, otherwise the trout will die. So we have right here, this is a chiller, and basically what happens is the water comes in from that tube, and it comes through. You can't really see it there. There is a pump underneath there. I'll try to get a better view from the other side. And it follows through that tube into the chiller, and then it gets cooled. The temperature that we have it set at is 54. It comes back out from this tube down into here, and it shoots into the tank. Now the interesting thing about that is it shoots a powerful amount, so then it causes ripples, which is what a stream would have. So we have water ripples. We also have below, we have a bubbler, because fish need oxygen in the water. The bubbler puts the oxygen back into the water. Then we come over here, and the reason that I have the net basket set up over there is basically it is a quieter part of the tank. We have our filter system right here. The filter, there's a tube, the water goes in, it goes through a filter system, and then the water comes back into the tank, and that's to take out some of the nitrates and ammonia. And we've built up, or nitrites, we've built up nitrates in there with a bacteria liquid. So we wanted to get bacteria, the good kind, building up into our filter system. So anyway, back to our eggs. They're in the quiet part of the tank. Our tank we have set up with a trout cam. So if you come in, you lift the thing, there's the camera, and there's the egg basket. But as you can see, we've really had a lot of almost all of the eggs. In fact, I believe all of the eggs have hatched. Let me see if I can get a closer look here. And now we're starting to see, at first they were hiding underneath those little edges. So when you came in to see, you could look underneath there, and there's a bunch of the little babies. And they're getting longer, and they're starting to wiggle, but they're still kind of hiding as if they were in the rocks in the streams. That's a natural thing for them to do. But now they're starting to come out, and slowly their egg sac is getting absorbed into the body. And when that's absorbed, then we're going to start feeding the trout. So here we are. Here's this side. You can kind of see the pump underneath there. It's hard to see, but on your paper that you'll pick up this week, you'll get a clear picture of it. And talking about the bubbler, this is actually the pump that the bubbler puts the air into the tank. This tube comes down from there, and it goes in. It has a special valve so that basically air can go through, but nothing can come back up, because you don't want any of the tank water going up into that. Okay, and that's our basic setup for the tank.